Welcome to this month's theme, Digital Rights and Responsibilities. I'm Nicole,
I'm Joel.
and welcome to our session on looking at our rights and responsibilities in regards to digital citizenship. So what does it mean to be a good digital citizen? This is something we've been working on all year, Joel.
We have digital citizenship is the focus of this series.
And so what does it mean?
Oh, where do I start?
Being kind,
Being kind. Yeah.
being safe.
Being safe.
If we ever wonder about something, asking your trusted adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, we have some digital rights. And so these are the four main digital rights for you here in ECSD. You have the right to feel safe. You have the right to express yourself. Joel, what are the next two?
Oh, you have right to access your learning online. And of course, and I would say something we all share is we have the ability to we have the right to be respected online.
Right. And so with these pieces, we know that there are going to be certain responsibilities that align with this as well. And so what is a digital responsibility? Well, if we have the right to be safe, then we have the responsible to also make sure that we are keeping others safe. We're responsible for being respectful. We're responsible for thinking before we post rather than, I know you had given this example once upon a time about like a playground behavior, right? Do I just want to act and out in anger if I don't get the swing? What should I do instead, Joel?
Take a second, find a trusted adult. When we talk about that acting with kindness, what would Jesus do, right? How do we behave? Would Jesus, go push that student off the swing? Or would they maybe realize there's a little bit more time and give them just a push on the swing, maybe an underdog?
Right, and maybe set a timer, right? And so we want to be thinking before we have any kind of big reactions, the same when we are online. And so we also want to make sure that we're using trustworthy resources and sources, meaning that we aren't going to sites that our teacher has not told us to go to, because one of our rights is to learn, but our responsibility is to go to appropriate sites with that, not to be jumping onto YouTube and watching some funny video. Also, our responsibilities are to follow the rules. So whatever your classroom guidelines are that you have established with your teacher and your classmates, those are your responsibilities. Those are the expectations, and so you need to be responsible in regards to those. And then, of course, like, Joel?
Yeah?
When we start talking about rights and responsibilities, we also start to talk about the law.
Absolutely.
So what's the law got to do with this?
Oh, what's the law got to do? It has a lot. It has a lot to
Tell
do
me
with
about it.
Okay. So within the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, there are specific sections that deal with online behavior. And so once you hit about age 12, there are actual criminal offenses or criminal charges that can be placed upon things like bullying, harassment, hate speech, disinformation. All of these things become very, number one, and as we've talked about in the past, your digital footprint, permanent, traceable, you can copy it, broadcast it, all of these things. So anything that you're putting online can be tracked and tied back to you. And so when we talk about how does the law impact it as you get older, there can be big consequences for people who can't be a responsible digital citizen. Maybe they're not educated in what their rights and responsibilities are. We've got the right to free speech, but there is a certain limit to how much that can how much freedom you have, right?
We can't just go delivering hate speech.
That's right. You can't infringe on other people's rights, right? We need to kind of be within that specific limit. So the law's got a lot to do with it.
Right. So cyberbullying, right? That's against the law. Hacking in, so using somebody's password to go into their account, is against the law. And then, of course, just copying other people's work, whether we're going online and doing Google searches, copying a picture, putting it into our work without actually citing that source, copying paragraphs off of a digital resource, and pasting it in, pretending it's our work. Those are all things that you can't do, and that there are consequences for in regards to the law. And so at the beginning of the year, you sign a user agreement that tells you that you have certain rights, but you also need to be responsible. And so there are also user agreements for different web services and different apps that you might use on your phone or on a tablet of any sort. And so make sure that you read through what those agreements are, because sometimes they take your information and they sell it to advertising companies. So then all of a sudden you start receiving messages from all of these chatbots and things like that. And so always make sure that anytime that there's a pop-up on a screen, because that's usually where there's some kind of agree to use the site, make sure you read through to see what they are wanting to access of your personal information. And so I guess we call that kind of like reading between the lines. Read the lines, but then also, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, and just to continue with this, sometimes that responsible user agreement means, there's a certain age limit on something.
Yes.
Or there's a certain, you're not really going to get a height requirement, but it's kind of the same thing, right? When we're getting in line for the amusement rides, there's somebody watching us as we're trying to get, are we tall enough? But there usually is nobody really, we can't see anyone when we're scrolling our age down to like 1910 and we're 100 years old to get into the service. So that stuff still can be tied back to you though, right? Like we talked about that digital footprint. And so if you are not following the user agreement, right? If you are indicating that you are older than you are in order to maybe avoid time limits on apps or to get access to different content, then those types of things that's a responsibility that you have to represent yourself honestly.
And usually they have those age limits, just like a roller coaster has a certain height limit. It's for safety reasons, right? And so that means that the safety gear on that particular roller coaster ride isn't going to fit you properly if you're not that size. And so same thing with these age limits, right? They're there to keep you safe. So just remember that, not to tell you that you can't use something, but it all comes down to that safety and what is safe for you to see and not see and things like that. And so Joel's kind of talked about this, our digital footprint. Everything you do online can be traced. So every like, every share, every post, everything becomes part of your digital story. So what kind of story do you want to tell? I want you to take a second to think about that. What is that story that you want to tell? I know we talk as we get older in grades that, colleges, sport teams, they do check out your social media. They follow those things. And so making sure that you tell that story that you want people to see is going to be really important as you move forward in your future. And so we have a little activity.
Oh, yay.
It's called Decode a User Agreement. And so we're not going to do this here with you at this moment, but this is something you can do in your classroom together as a class or in small groups. There is a user agreement, a sample one that's going to follow in a second, and I want you to read it with your class. I want you to look for rules about data. I want you to look at what the behaviors are that are expected and what that privacy is. So I want you to kind of be a digital detective and check it out. And so here's a sample. So your privacy matters. So read through this as a group. You can push pause and do this now. Read through this. What is important information in here? So just kind of practicing why or how to read through a user agreement, but also why it's important for you. So you can push pause now and do that. And so I hope that you were able to really dissect this user agreement and look at that information. What are you agreeing to? Those are really important things always as we move forward. And those are things too that when you get those pop-ups, you can either choose to decline everything or you can click in further to learn more. And so really important as we go. Another possible project here, just kind of thinking we are wrapping up our school year, is maybe a project challenge like be a digital leader. Maybe you could create a poster or a comic or a short video showing some responsible behavior online that ties in those digital rights and your digital responsibilities. And so there's also at the end of the activity section, just kind of like a little activity that you can take and do together as a class or give the options to the students to be able to do. And then another fun thing, I know you talked about it earlier, is that Charter of Rights and Freedoms here in Canada, but maybe you could create your own digital charter of rights and responsibilities. What might that look like? because as you move into your next year, these things are going to continue to become important in your life. So here's a little activity that you can do in regards to that as well. And then a few additional resources just to support you. These are all Lumio activities, these top 3. The elementary digital citizenship is really helpful for kind of looking at those responsibilities of being a good digital citizen. The password review game down at the bottom has some really great digital citizenship vocabulary that is really great to review. And then, of course, the middle one, just digital citizenship, is a really great little Lumio that you can adjust to that helps you to understand those fundamentals and what those pieces are. And so we've been talking about them all year and fusing them into each of our themes because really those fundamentals are the most important piece right now.
Strong foundation.
Absolutely.
Means tall towers, right?
Right, there we go. And so with that, thank you for joining us this month. Make sure that, yes, you have those digital rights, but you need to balance them with the responsibilities and acting appropriately. So have a wonderful month, and we'll see you next month.
In June.